Hi, it's Carmi Weininger of the Reactor Panel Saddle Company, and this is an exciting segment because I want to give you some new information about the twist. I think we've all known for a long time about the twist of the saddle, the part where the saddle comes closest together in the center, and we talk about a wide twist or a narrow twist when we choose saddles for ourselves and for our own comfort as riders. But I want us to now contemplate what the twist really is and how it affects fitting your horse. So if we think of the twist as the place where the saddle changes shape, it begins angled for the horse's shoulder and it literally twists to make a sitting surface for us to sit on. Let's correlate that to the way the horse is built. So we take the angle represented by the slope of my hand, where the front edge of your saddle sits, and slowly moving your hand back, watch my hand flatten and get more parallel to the ground until it's twisted. And let me do that again. I place my hand on the horse where the front edge of your saddle would sit, and keeping this angle the same, that is my fingers pointing towards the opposite wall the entire time, I'm going to move my hand slowly and watch my hand change and flatten out. Where my hand just twisted on this horse is where her saddle must twist in order to fit her body. So put your hand on your horse where the front of your saddle tree is going to go, and slowly move it back as you watch the angle of your hand change. Where your hand changes from a steep angle to a flatter angle, that is more parallel to the ground, is where your horse twists, right there. This horse is simple in that she twists once. Here's the one angle, here's the second angle, and the angle stays the same for the duration of the underside of the saddle. Some horses twist twice, and those horses are much trickier to fit. So as we continue to look at the way the horse twists and the effect of the twist in the horse's body on the construction of the saddle, we're going to look at Bam Bam. This is a 16-year-old Appaloosa borderline pony, borderline horse. So we're just going to make sure that he's standing square before we begin, and I just want to remind you, in all of our saddle fitting checks, we want the horse square, we want the head and neck in neutral, and that's going to give us the best ability to assess the horse in a symmetrical stance. So as we've done each time before, we put our hand onto the wither behind the scapula where the front of the saddle will go, and we watch the changes in angle as we move our hand back along the horse's back. And his head and neck need to be straight as you're doing these things. So we're going to just move our hand and watch the angle change. And I think by now you've gotten pretty good at noticing where he twisted. So here's the front of the saddle, here's his twist, and the continuation of the new angle. So this twist is not extreme, and it's rather far back. The front of the saddle maintains this angle, then twists here, then continues. So his saddle is going to need to have a twisted area that's farther back, or his saddle will need to be shimmed or otherwise addressed with saddle pads to follow this contour in this horse's back. So next with Bam Bam, we're going to look at the way that his shoulder rotates when his foreleg is in extension, and we're just going to mark the back of the scapula with a little bit of chalk. And we're going to note 2 fingers behind the scapula, or where we would ordinarily place the front edge of our saddle tree. And we're going to then explore when his foreleg is moved forward and the scapula rotates back, what happens. So you have a helper, extend the foreleg just like a normal trot stride, and watch this area bulge and get bigger all the way to here. This is your new spot. So on Bam Bam, we need to be sure, like with most of the horses we're seeing, that this shoulder area is open enough that when this scapula rotates back, which it does each time his foreleg extends, that we've created an open spot in the saddle to give him room to have shoulder freedom, and shoulder freedom is expressed by length of stride, swinging through the back, all the things that we want no matter what sort of riding we do. We're going to keep exploring the twist as the twist is in the shape of the horse, and as we need to understand the contours in the horse so that we can match the contours of the horse with the contours of the saddle to get exemplary fit. So when we look at a horse like Kevin, this is a 20-year-old Dutch warmblood. He's got some idiosyncratic issues in his conformation, partly through age and partly through the way that he's built. So his wither's quite high, his backbone's quite steep. He has a pocket of existing atrophy behind his shoulder. And we've actually been working with this horse for a remedial fit for several weeks, and he's begun to improve quite a bit. But I wanted to show you some of the challenges we face when we fit a horse like this. So taking our twist marker, where we put our hand onto the horse, I'm going to press now and let you see that my hand gets very concave. This is because he's atrophied. So first we need to be aware of this curve in the horse and be sure that our saddle doesn't curve too tightly into this area. If it does, we'll deepen the atrophy and we'll prevent it from healing. So we start with this hand, looking at the angle and moving the hand back towards the tail and watching the angle change. So as I move my hand back, you can see my hand twists to find a new angle and carries on back. Now what I've noticed is that he's resting a hind foot. So I'm going to straighten him out. There we go. Brings up his back, and now he's going to look quite different. So this is important to note the effect of a cocked foot. Here's the front. Here he twists and flattens, and he gets quite flat and keeps twisting almost until here. Let's look at that again. The angle at the wither in the shoulder, the first twist, and the second twist. So the saddle contour that's going to fit a horse with this complex shape is going to avoid the area of atrophy. It's going to twist once in this area and a second time in this area to follow his changing contours. Now let's talk about the area available to saddle, and the formula is the same. We're able to saddle beginning behind the scapula, forward of the last rib, at or above the rib attachments, and below the spinous processes. But in this case, we have an added trouble zone, which is the existing atrophy that Kevin's got behind his shoulder. So when we start with 2 fingers behind the shoulder, the weight-bearing surface starts here. When we come onto the spine and then a finger's breadth down for the spinous processes, we're here. Oops, a little ticklish. We come to the rib attachments here. The last true rib, following the curve, is here. And we can connect these areas. But here it's tricky. So we are going to want his saddle to avoid this area. And we're going to want to put weight here. And leaving this big open pocket would be a remedial fit, a fit that enables this horse to regenerate tissue in the area where he's been compromised. And the reason why, you can see he's got quite a high wither, and saddles narrow enough to clear that wither have been so narrow that they've actually impinged on the tissue. And we found if you take a horse like this and you put him into pasture for 6 weeks and pull him out, he's no different. But if you take a horse in this shape and give him an open pocket, a remedial fit that allows for the atrophy to regenerate, and ride him in a long, low frame and a rounded top line for those same 6 weeks, at the end, he'll have measurable tissue regeneration. It's really quite remarkable.